Hi guys, it's a beautiful Saturday. Here in Nashville is extremely hot. Probably about 90 something degrees. But as promised, I wanted to bring you in here and show you a little bit of watering. Hi, if you do not know who I am, my name is Tammy and welcome to my channel, Gardening with Tammy. I'm going to take you along and let you see how I water my garden and how everything is going. And I'll be also introducing my new garden. And so hopefully the watering techniques that I use help you and help your plants grow the way that they need it to grow. So I'm going to first just start off by saying thank you to everyone who has went in, watched my video, and subscribed. I really appreciate all the love that you guys have been giving me. I'm sorry, I just saw like a really big wolf spider and I'm like contemplating, should I let it be and let it eat the bugs that's on plants. I don't like spiders. So anyway, getting back to the channel. Getting back to the channel. So what I'm going to show you today is my new garden, introduce my new garden and some of the techniques and some tips on how to water. So now I don't know if a lot of you know, but watering when it's this hot outside is a big no-no. Mainly because the conditions are a little bit too hot. And if you put a lot of water on your plants, I mean, just think about it. If you're outside, you're wet, what happens? I mean, it just dissipates and you could possibly damage the leaves on your plants. So that's something that, I'm sorry to keep watching this spider. That's not something that I would normally do. I do not water when it's super hot outside. And I do not want to damage the leaves on my plants. And I have done that before and try to figure out like, why are my leaves dying, why are they browning? That's exactly why, because I was watering when it was super hot, no wind blowing, and it was burning basically the leaves. So the way that I water and when I water. So the ideal watering time would be for you to water mainly in the morning time when it's still not too cold, not too warm outside. So preferably about, if you're an early bird person, probably get up about 6:30 to 7 and water your plants then and give them a good soaking. Excuse me. Give them a good soaking so that at the end of the day when you come back in and everything, you'll be able to take a look and it'll flourish. Or one of the other things that I do when I water, so if I don't water early in the morning, which I really don't, mainly because I have to get up and go to work, so I normally water when the sun goes down, when it's still pretty warm outside but the sun is down and it's not completely beaming on my plants. So in Nashville, I normally water maybe about 6:30-ish or 7, depending on how hot it is outside. Now, we've been having a lot of rain here recently, so I haven't had to water. I think it has probably rained all last week. Haven't had to water, but my plants are loving the rain. And I also want to give a special shout out to Nicole, my neighbor. So Nicole gifted me some plants that I planted, and they were cucumber, watermelon, as well as squash and zucchini. So I planted those and I'm just waiting to see how everything takes off with that. But it's really hot out here, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys, introduce my new garden and show you what all I'm growing. And again, if you haven't purchased your seeds, go and purchase your seeds so you can go ahead and get this garden season started. It's not too late to go ahead and start gardening and planting now. I went to Lowe's earlier and there were a lot of people still buying and purchasing the plants. They mainly just really have like tomatoes, peppers and stuff like that still around, mainly because all the other products a lot of people have purchased already. But it's still not too late for you. So if you are thinking about gardening, go out, go get the plants, get whatever it is that you need so you can go ahead and get your garden season going here. And container gardening, if you haven't caught my last video on how I started, go back and watch that video for me. I started out in containers and I still grow in containers, mainly because it's way easier. You can pick them up, you can move them, you can clean them out, you can wash them, you can put them away if you don't want to grow for the winter. So it's very doable. So without further ado, I do want to introduce you to my new garden. It's, like I said, very hot out here today, very muggy, and I'm going to do my best to try to show you everything that I have going on. So stay tuned and take a look at my new garden. Okay guys, so as promised, I'm going to show you my garden from afar. So I purchased these 4x4 raised beds from Walmart actually, and they have served me pretty well, and they're pretty big and I have a lot of growing room. So I purchased 6 of them, and I'll put the link below as to what they are. They're lifetime raised beds. So they've worked out very well for me. So this very first raised bed that you see here are tomatoes. Okay, so I planted these a little late with the exception of one, mainly because when I grew in the inside of the house, a lot of my plants were leggy and didn't quite do well except for one, and I'll zoom in on that in just a moment. So all of these seeds that are in my raised beds, with the exception of a few things that I purchased from Lowe's, all came from my gardener. So again, as you can see, the seeds and everything that I purchased from him are very, very good seeds. So my neighbor Nicole, I went and purchased some tomato plants from her because my tomato plants were so teeny tiny in my raised bed right here that I decided, well, I may not have that many tomato plants, you know, survive. So I purchased a few from her, and that was a mistake. Not a mistake buying them from you, Nicole. It was a mistake because, oh my gosh, look at this raised bed. So right here are my tomatoes. So I have a raised bed full of tomatoes. So I came through here earlier and kind of cleaned it out to make sure airflow was doable. If you can see, a lot of these already have flowers on them, and I just planted this in April. This is now June. They have taken completely off, and they're flowering. And also just a quick tip, when you're growing your tomatoes, just you want to make sure, and I still have to come out here and remove some of the suckers, but we'll get into that at a later time. And down below I have basil growing here, and that's just mainly to ward off any pests that come in and like to eat tomatoes. So I have a large variety of tomatoes that I planted in this raised bed. They range from small tomatoes like the sweetie tomato up into the beefsteak tomatoes. Also, I purchased some tomatillas, and you'll probably see like a lot of the bugs flying around and everything, wasps and bees, because they're after the flowers. Well, anyway, these are my tomatillas, and they're doing pretty well. I mean, they're flowering, and it's a lot of them coming on there, and they're just about everywhere, and they're exploding here. So if again you question about anything that I purchased from my gardener, I would tell you to go and purchase some seeds from him. Again, not a plug, I just simply love the seeds because this is the result. So excuse my grass, we haven't cut it, but anywho, this raised bed right here are my tomatoes and peppers. So I say tomatoes because these were the plants that I purchased from my neighbor Nicole. She also gardens, so they have taken off as well, and they have a lot of flowers on them. And I even have some actual tomatoes, if I can. Here they are, they're hiding right there. So needless to say, we're probably going to be canning and giving away and doing a lot of giving away when it comes to tomatoes. And also down below, my pepper plants. So I have pepper plants and everything planted here, and also inside of this raised bed I do have eggplant coming up. So this is what everything looks like. I have a bunch of flowers on here. I even have a pepper there that something is biting into, which we're probably going to be able to use that one. But that's one of the peppers that started growing. And I also have another one growing here, if I can get to it and let you see it. A bell pepper. So the entire plant is just pretty much taking off, and they're exploding with all types of flowers. So those are the first two. And over here, I mean, how cute is this little nasturtium flower? So if you don't know what nasturtiums are an edible flower. I've heard that they're pretty good, so I decided to grow some in the very front, and they're pretty much taken off here. So these are the nasturtiums that I planted, and I have them going all the way around here. There's another flower coming on there, and behind that, these are my carrots. These are all carrots, so carrots are growing right behind there. So I'm the type of gardener where I try to maximize my space. Any spot that's open, and if something grows well with it, I'm planting there. So back here we have zucchini and squash growing, and if you can see, even the little flowers here, one was open earlier, but with it being so hot, they do close. So they're doing extremely well. Now I do have to come out here and cut down some of the leaves that's on top of my radishes. I pulled some earlier because, as you can see, it's starting to come to flower, and it changes the taste, so you do want to make sure you get that out of there. But a lot of my radishes and everything are growing here. And over here are my cucumbers. So a lot of cucumbers. It has flowers and everything on them. So again, I maximize that space every chance that I get. So I bought, again, a total of 6 raised beds. That was number 3. Number 4 over here. So I have corn, sweet potatoes, grapes, watermelon, everything growing here. So this raised bed right here I purchased from my gardener as well. Not the raised bed, the items inside. Sorry. So corn, I have different varieties of corn, and it's really taking off. And this was my first year ever growing corn, and it's doing very well. I mean, very healthy stalks. And I'll tell you exactly what I used in my raised bed in another video to get everything moving here. So those are sweet potatoes, and back here there are melons, and we got grapes. I have netting over it because I have a rabbit that decides it likes to come in and eat. That's watermelon. These are like the sugar baby watermelons, and if you ever had those, they're like the really small watermelons. And I'm going to do another video too for you guys later on about pest control and what I do right now. We're having a problem with Japanese beetles, and if you can see, there's one right there, and they really love grapes. So I'm going to have to come out here and get him off of here. And these are my ground cherries. This would be my first year trying ground cherries to see exactly what they taste like. So I'm really excited about that. Now that is bed number 4. All right, we're at bed number 5. So this particular bed I have in here, this is my herb and salad station, I guess you would call it. So in here I have all types of herbs, and I'm growing cabbage and all kinds of lettuce, as well as greens. And again, I'll do another video on pest control and how I manage it. As you can see, it doesn't matter what you do, pests are still going to come. I do not like spraying my beds with any pesticides at all whatsoever, but I have found that neem oil slightly helps, but again, I do not want to use pesticides. So, and I'll link I'll do another video on how I maintain or try to keep the pest off as much as possible. But this right here, that's my basil. There's mint and that's cilantro. As you can see, I have a little cabbage forming here, and I finally found the culprit that's been eating everything. He's right in there, so I'll get him in just a moment. And also, these are my greens that he's come through here and kind of eaten on, but that's okay. I'll get it taken care of. And a bunch of lettuce. So if you've ever grown mint, you know that mint is extremely invasive. So it's covered right now, but I never did take the mint out the pot. I just simply planted it in the pot. Now that was bed number 5. I'm sorry, yeah, number 5. And this is the last raised bed that I have started. This is number 6. These are beds full of garlic, strawberries, beans, and onions. So I'm going to bring in a little bit closer to everything. I still have some work that I have to do out here. But inside of here, if you can see, onions down there. If I can get to it. These are onions and a very large variety of beans. Sorry if the lighting is kind of weird. It's very sunny here. And a bunch of bean plants. So I do have to come out here and get everything together, pick some food because it's a lot that's growing. And if you can see down here, got a little, well not a little, big bean growing here. So I have to come out here and get all of this stuff together. So those are my raised beds. So I have a total of 6, and again I'll link the link below on where I purchased the raised beds so that you guys know exactly where I got them from. Okay guys, so this is like my little spigot that I use, and this is the actual watering can that I use. Nothing special. And I mean, a lot of people may set theirs up on timers. That's absolutely fine if that's what works for you. Again, I'm a very visual person, and I need to be able to see everything that's happening with my gardens. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. And when I fill this, I normally just fill it all the way to the top, just so that I don't make that many trips. True enough, a water hose will serve better. I have a water hose, but again, I like to be able to stop and look and know exactly what's going on. So I'm going to show you about how cool. I can get some shade going here. So this is about how full I normally do the watering can. It's about almost to the top. So I'm going to show you exactly how to water at least one container. So this is my strawberry container. And I'll show you exactly how much water is actually put into this. That's it. And I'll do a 15-gallon so that you know exactly how I water my 15-gallon, because it is extremely hot out here. That's it. And now out to my raised bed. So Again, I do not like to water when it's this hot, mainly because again, it could burn the leaves. So I'm just gonna pick this bed, my third bed, that has some nasturtiums and that also has the actual zucchini and squash and cucumbers. So I'm gonna show you exactly how I water. And that's it, nothing special, right? So as you can see, it's not extremely saturated, but it's enough inside to where if I was to come out here and place one finger into the dirt, that it'd be moist enough to kind of give it a drink of water. This way it keeps you from over watering. And again, it's pretty simple, nothing major. I give it just enough to survive, and we repeat the next day, because when the sun goes down it gets a little cool, and again, you don't want your plants to suffer because of mistakes in watering. So over here in the raised bed, the container that I just did, the 15-gallon, as you can see, it's so hot. My strawberry plants have kind of laid down a little bit and still have the kale. It's really hot outside. So again, it's nothing that is different other than it's just a little saturation. And over to the other container, the 5-gallon, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's moist, and as you can see, as I told you before, with these 5-gallon containers, water flows right out of them so that you don't have a problem with water. Alright guys, that was it. That was an introduction to my brand new raised beds and everything that I'm growing inside of those, and also tips on how to water. If it's helpful to you, just go ahead and go in and hit that like and subscribe button, and hopefully these tips help you in the future, so that when you're watering your garden, you don't overwater, you don't underwater, but pretty much gives you an insight of how I water everything, as well as how I keep everything growing. So again, thank you so much for taking the time out and listening to me today in this video. You guys have a great evening. Thank you again. Gardening with Tammy.